Alright YouTube, for this vlog we'll be doing a Fancast flashback Friday to this super cool Fancast I saw of The Boys that I randomly remembered because I was thinking about the final season upcoming and how way behind I am on the show, but I do remember watching the first season. I absolutely loved it. I think I started the second season, but as you can probably imagine, I did not go through with it, which was a mistake, but I'm really excited for the final season of The Boys because I've heard nothing but great things about all or at least most of these seasons, and I look forward to rewatching the first one as well as watching seasons 2 through 4 because I believe the 5th one we're on is the final one. But anyways, onto this Fancast. I think it's super cool. I'm going to go in depth a little bit more about the specific actors and characters, but one thing I love about this Fancast overall video got cut off. One thing I love about this Fancast overall is a lot of these actors and actresses are either really famous in other superhero movies or both, which I think would be perfect for the Boys movie because, I really I don't know how to explain. It's sort of just this weird thing I have, but I feel like the Boys movie should have actors and actresses who are actually super famous to sort of give it that real world feeling, but also that, sort of dystopian sort of vibe that some of the characters have. And particularly about sort of The Boys, it's just such a standout compared to Marvel, DC, and even movies like The Incredibles or other animated superhero movies, because it's just, I know The Boys is a comic unlike The Incredibles, but it's just so brilliant and so creative and edgy and unconventional, almost like Deadpool, and actually kind of a lot like Deadpool. And speaking of which, one of the Deadpool 3 actors, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, as Homelander, I think is a brilliant casting because I could definitely, that's a repetitive statement, could definitely see Hugh being a Homelander, not quite as much as the Homelander guy who has become known as Homelander, but yeah. And I really like Amanda as Starlight because she definitely has the right look for the character, and I think her and Andrew Garfield as Huey would have a good romantic chemistry and good sort of vibes and aesthetic to them, especially their characters, because I know Andrew Garfield sort of reminds me a lot of Huey in a lot of his other roles, whether it's Spider-Man or just as Andrew in general, or in other movies, miscellaneous movies I've seen him in. He definitely sort of gives the vibe of Huey, but he definitely does not look like the comic book Huey from The Boys, but neither does the guy from the actual The Boys, so who cares? Although I will say I think it could be cool to see Andrew Garfield have a different look that looks like Huey from the comic books The Boys instead of, just being Andrew Garfield's normal look, but I don't know. And although I'm blanking on the two characters' specific names, I do recognize Idris Elba and Riz Ahmed as actors in general, but I think I remember their characters or the characters they're meant to be playing in the first season of The Boys, especially the one Idris is Fancast as. I think he definitely has a cool role, but something I do want to say is something I would really like to see in this movie is it sort of reference some of the actors and actresses' other work in subtle ways, sort of in like a Deadpool fourth wall breaking kind of way. Maybe not the fourth wall, but what I mean specifically, to be transparent, is I want to see a Knuckles reference as well as a Tom reference from James Marsden, who's playing Deep in this Fancast. As for Brad Pitt as Butcher, I can say definitely after watching Fight Club as well as other Brad Pitt movies, but let's be real, especially Fight Club, I could definitely see him as this role, sort of the anti-hero, edgy character. But I should say there's a lot more to Butcher than just being an edgy anti-hero, so it may not have been the greatest statement on my part, my bad. So I will say his standalone movie, Captain America Brave New World, was to me at best. I do think Anthony would be great as the A-Train role. I think it could be sort of a similar character to Falcon, but definitely a little more, I don't know how to say it, but The Boys sort of just gives that vibe of the edgy heroes. And the other characters who I didn't name in this movie Fancast, I do recognize and do know the actors and the characters, but I don't remember too much about them. But I am super excited to buy The Boys comic book. I'll give you guys a review probably soon once I do that, but until then, I really enjoyed exploring this trip down memory lane of this 2020 Fancast of The Boys movie that was allegedly coming out, but I don't think they're making a The Boys movie, so it's very sad. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. I loved filming this vlog. Stay tuned for more soon. Goodbye.